system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free.
Calling the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Payton Bradley Ferris, D2401566ST. Counsel, can you place your appearances on the record?
Gabriel Holmes for the deal.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michael Nunn on behalf of Mr. Ferris was present today.
Thank you very much. Sir, can you stand up? Please tell me your full name.
Payton Bradley Ferris.
All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that any testimony you'll give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can be seated. We're here for sentencing. And as we start off, I want to note I have reviewed the sentencing memorandums prepared by both the defense and the prosecution. The pre-sentence investigation report that was prepared by one of the probation officers within the court after interviewing Mr. Ferris and reviewing letters of support for both Keegan and for Mr. Ferris. And before we proceed any further, there it is, thank you. I know there are a number of people who would like to speak, but I'll begin with you, Mr. Holmstrom. Does the government have a statement it wishes to begin sentencing with?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Throughout this process, the facts are undisputed in this case. There's video of what happened. Obviously, we sent that video to the court. Defendant's vehicle was traveling on M6. It was going 80 miles an hour. Past a semi-truck, that's where the video came from.
Right.
Went into the right lane. There was some slow traffic ahead. Moved in the left lane, went in the median, and struck Keegan. Defendant should have slowed down, obviously. It's frustrating for everybody involved that the move over law doesn't encompass this kind of case. In Michigan, the move over law requires that when there's two lines of travel moving in the same direction, that the emergency vehicle has to be in that same direction. Obviously here, the emergency vehicle was in a median. The law should change. Instead, we're here on a moving violation causing death case. I'm aware that we can't fix the law at this junction, but we are asking for the court to consider that in their sentence. The victims have been asking for a term of jail. We support that request. We believe that request is appropriate here, Your Honor. Lastly, we would ask for obviously restitution. There is some restitution costs involving funeral expenses that we will get that information over to the court, so we would ask for restitution to stay open. I just want to thank you. Lastly, I just want to thank the family of Keegan. They've been very respectful throughout this process, and it's just a very difficult time for them. And there's nothing about this process that's it's a tough day for everyone. So thank you for the court's time and attention, and we just ask that, of course, when they make their statements, the court listens. Thank you.
Yes. Before we proceed into hearing from the defense, I'd like to give an opportunity for everybody who wanted to speak. And I have a list. I don't know if this is the order you'd like to proceed in, but I'll call it in this way, and if that works, we'll do that. All right, first I have Matt, Keegan's father.
I would like to go last, Your Honor.
Understood.
We would like his siblings to go first.
Okay, who would like to go first then? What's your name, ma'am?
Maggie,
Maggie, come on up.
and they can come stand with me.
Of course they can, yeah. Maggie, can you just tell me your full name, please?
Maggie Spencer.
Okay, great, thank you, please.
Payton, exactly 408 days ago, you recklessly took my brother's life. 408 days I've held on to so much anger and resentment towards you. 408 days I've had to push my emotions to the side because someone has to hold it together for my parents, my little brother, and my brother's fiancé. But today I'm done pushing them aside. When you made the choice you did on November 4th, 2023, not only did you end Keegan's life, but you ended a part of my life. The part of me that could recall happy moments from my childhood. But don't get me wrong, they're still happy, but now there's an aching pain that comes along with the memory. The part of me that was so excited for all the memories Keegan and I were going to make with our kids growing up, so close in age, but now I have to live a future making those memories without him. I now have to go longer without him than I did with him. He was supposed to be the person I grew old with, the person that would sit on my porch while we are old and gray and laugh about everything we endured as parents. But now Jack and I will be sitting on my porch with our third chair empty, wishing he was sitting there next to us, wishing he was able to reminisce on our long lives together. I remember so many things from November 4th, like how the weather was actually nice out for Michigan weather in November, how moments before I received the call from my father that something just fell off. I still remember word for word what my father said to me as he had to break it to me that my brother's life was cut too short. I can still remember the feeling of my shirt all of a sudden becoming way too tight and my chest feeling like it was stabbed thousands of times. As I was struggling to breathe and form any words, I had to break it to my stepdad and my mother that the boy who made her mother was killed by a negligent driver. Hearing her scream and collapse to the floor will forever be engraved in my brain. I remember going numb and falling to the floor myself, begging God that they had it wrong, that it wasn't Keegan. I will forever remember the feeling of having to break it to many family members and friends, but especially my husband, who was once so close to Keegan, or having to comfort my grandmother because she kept telling herself that it wasn't real, and she was just waiting on my dad to call her and tell her everything was fine. That feeling of helplessness, because this was something that no matter how hard I tried to fix, I'm a fixer. I still replay that day over and over and probably will for the rest of my life. That day will forever haunt me. I still have the screenshot of his location at the time of his death and the scanner page that posted that slim details of the accident. But now that we are over a year into this, I still have no answers, so let me ask you these. Did you even get out of your car to check on him? Did you attempt to do life-saving measures? Did you sit with him until the other first responders got there so that way my brother wasn't laying in that ditch by himself? Did you check on my niece? Because I know she was screaming loud enough for you to hear. Anytime her daddy was out of her sight for longer than 4 seconds, she was screaming and crying for him. So I know it had to have been heard. Did you call 911? Payton, what did you do once you struck and killed my brother? I've seen so much cowardness from you and your family since my brother's death, and I hope that you all know my brother would have never acted this way if he was in your shoes. He wouldn't have been liking Facebook comments under posted news articles of people writing disgusting comments about the accident and disgusting comments about Keegan. He wouldn't have skipped out on court dates just to be seen on Facebook. Mind you, this is the same exact day that you skipped out on a hearing, posting about somebody trespassing hunting land. Keegan wouldn't have been posting about living his best life and shooting animals or fishing just a few days after the accident. He wouldn't have been going on trips out of state and avoiding what happened November 4th, 2023. My mother wouldn't have been posting on her Instagram stories of her recording and promoting distracted driving, stating she knows it isn't technically legal, but it's only her in the car so no one else is at risk. Then continuing to talk about mourning doves out of anything. Ironic, right? My family also would never look at yours and tell them to get over it. It's tragic on both sides, while standing in this very hallway of this court. Keegan would have owned up to his actions and taken the charges he was handed, and my family would have made sure to show you remorse and respect. I hope you realize by doing what you have, by avoiding owning up to your actions, that this isn't only a slap into my face or my family's face, but to all the towers sitting in this room, all the towers outside, and all the towers who are risking their lives right now on the white line. Keegan's life and every other tow operator's life mean more than a misdemeanor and a pitiful small fine. You deserve to sit in jail and miss out on things just like Keegan has to for the rest of his life. All of the tow operators and my brother deserve that justice. My parents deserve to see their child's life means more than this. My niece deserves to look at all of this later in life and see the justice system didn't fail her father. My little brother and I deserve to see justice be served for Keegan, as he would have fought tooth and nail for it to be served on a gold platter. All in all, Payton, I have so much more that I want to say to you, but I have to cut it short due to the room we are standing in. As you enjoyed all your free time and continue to make memories with your little brother, I've had to mourn my past life with my brother. I had to choose the exact casket my brother was laying in, the outfit he was laid to rest in, and all the details of his funeral. I had to mentally battle myself to walk away from my brother one last time as he laid in the casket, as you got to go home to yours every day since the accident, and for that I will forever hate you. I hope that when you are done here today, you'll remember all of our faces, all of our voices, and all the pain you inflicted. I hope that when the day comes when his children reach out to you, that you can look them in the eye and tell them the truth on why their dad was killed. I hope the guilt of ripping Keegan away from his parents, his siblings, his children, his fiancé, and his grandparents and friends eats at you day in and day out for the rest of your life. I hope November 4th, 2023 plays in your head every single time your mind gets quiet, as we now have to live the rest of our lives without Keegan Spencer due to your negligence. Running from the consequences might save you in this lifetime, but I promise you that it won't save you when it comes to being face-to-face with my brother again. And you might want to rethink ever calling for a tow truck. My kindest regards.
Hi. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Olivia Keaton.
Hi, Olivia.
Payton, there's so much to say to you. I'm lost for words. I've tried to rewrite this speech a million times. November 4th has been and will be burned into so many brains for so many years to come. That morning was like any other. Keegan only had a few cars to run, and he was making his way home to spend time with our family. And it was very special that our daughter was able to go. I'll never forget getting the call from one of our close friends, Brittany Fifelsky, that there had been an accident, and Keegan's tow truck was there. My heart instantly dropped. Instantly hanging up on Brittany, shaking to call Keegan. There was no answers. I called a few times, hoping that this was a mistake, but it wasn't. There was no answer on the other side. I was helping my dad that morning. I looked at him in pure shock. I said, "It's Keegan. He's been hit," running to my car. Only to call Keegan's best friend and business partner to hear the crackle in his voice, unable to catch his breath. "He's gone, Liv. He's gone." I got the call that nobody in their right mind would ever want, and I will forever be changed from your actions. Payton, on January 19, 2024, you had reached out personally claiming that if you could turn back time and put Keegan behind the wheel and you on the blacktop, you would without hesitation. But that's not the case, as much as we wish. This year has been hell. Raising kids while trying to grieve a person that you plan to spend your future with is next to impossible. My grief is also often pushed to the side if I have two innocent children to raise. Anybody in this courtroom could tell you that Keegan and I's daughter is a spitting image of him. From looks to personality, Lenora is truly one of a kind little girl. The same little girl full of spunk and brings laughter to everybody around her. Is the same little girl who will grow up with 0% memory of her father, besides pictures and stories from people around. The same little girl that was only feet away from the accident, who knows what she saw or experienced. As though we are grateful that she was young at the time of the death, there's a lifelong trauma that she will endure as she grows. As for my son, he is old enough to understand and acquire a lot more emotions than a no 4 or 5-year-old should at the time. Trying to hide the depression with tears and trying to be strong for your kids is a pain and wish upon nobody. Planning a funeral and trying to decide if your kids should see your fiance/dad's cold hard body. in a casket, or am I going to scar them more than they already are? What about holidays and birthdays? We visited a grave for all of them. I've brought my kids to a cross to sing happy birthday for my daughter and her father and blow out a candle. As you have so many memories to come with your family and to get to experience those special moments, I'll be bringing mine to a cross. No child should have to drive past the cemetery and wave, "Hi, Daddy," or "Love you, Daddy," or question me home. She asks if her dad comes home all the time. It's truly one of the most heartbreaking things, and we will continue to have heartbreaking moments. As the time goes on, multiple people have seen the public social media accounts of yourself and your family posting as if they've not been affected, and it's truly disgusting. Your life will forever move forward as ours has stopped. To your mom, I hope you hold your son a little bit tight, as he was the same age as my daughter, and he has both parents. If any of you were in our shoes, or our families and friends, you would be fighting just as hard. How dare you, as a mother, post such a selfish video while driving, while fighting for your son's case, who has his phone seconds prior to hitting Keegan. But so be it, right? So be it if your child is the one crying for their dad. Until you watch your spouse's lifeless body fly through the air only feet away from your daughter, or reading the autopsy report, you will not know my pain. You will never know any of our pain. To myself, along with my children and the family and friends of the Chochuk brothers, the $2,000 fine you will pay is such a slap to the face. To explain to your daughter one day that the man who killed her only got to pay a fine and will live his life makes me speechless. I hope you never need a tow, as your name and family's name has been buried into every man's face, every man that climbs into those tow trucks and risks their life. Your face has been plastered as much as mine. As horrible and emotionally draining as this past year has been, Payton, I know you did not wake up November 4th with the intentions to hit and kill Keegan. It is a hard day for all of us, but you will never know our pain. Payton, I hope when the time comes and you create a family, and when that sweet innocent child calls you dad, I hope Lenora's face haunts you.
Hi there, sir.
Jack Rosenberg.
Thank you.
Before I start reading, I do want to preface this by saying I know Payton didn't wake up that day wanting to kill my brother, like Olivia said. Obviously, that would be no man's intention. But Payton, I'm not here to show you any remorse or give any closure to you. Your actions on November 4th are the cause of two things: your own inescapable actions and idiocy. Your own incompetence is the reason my family will ache every day. It is the reason he doesn't get to marry his fiancé. It is the reason he doesn't get a father and daughter dance. It is the reason that people will always hurt. A heart of gold and nerves of steel, those things are gone due to your actions. You're not only a murderer, but a thief, as you've stolen joy from our family and you've stolen experiences from his daughter. You've stolen a hero to people in need, and with that title, you are forever in debt to me, my mother, my sister, my niece, and her mother, and the 800 people that I spoke to at his funeral. Those people you will forever be in debt to. As you've stolen a life, and as I stand here and say these things to you, I truly hope I live to see the day you pay your debt, Payton. In these 13 months, I've learned a lot. I've learned how to grieve, I've learned how to be strong, and I've learned how to speak. Because I didn't get to speak to my brother before he died, Payton. I want you to know that. Do you know what that experience teaches someone? It teaches you to hate someone, Payton. It teaches you a desire so violent it's devouring. And for you to sit there and cry and shed some snake oil tears, or to simply have this put as a simple accident, there is no way you could ever actually see the depths that I hate you, Payton. So I will take every second that this court allows me to tell you. To tell you what it feels like to dial a number that does not answer, and to search for any video with a familiar laugh and know it's all gone because an idiot can't use their brakes. Payton, I want you to know that every single moment you have to spare, I resent it, and every single inch of earth you've walked on since that day, it rots beneath you. And as you march closer to serving your real sentence, I hate you every single day from sunup to sundown. 14 months, and 6 of which I didn't know your name. So, Payton, until your loved ones pull out a little baggie full of gray sand-like material and stuff it in a necklace or put it on a ring just to say that they have a piece of you with them, and only on that day, Payton, will I consider my brother's justice served, and your sentence is then finished.
Who would like to speak next? I have Matt, Miko, Caleb, AJ, Kim, Sharon, and Andrew left. Hi there.
How you doing?
Okay, what's your name?
Andrew James Tim.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Tim. I'm the owner and operator of Tozilla Towing and Recovery. Keegan Spencer was my friend and business partner. I am honored to stand before you today, invited by Keegan's parents to share the impact of the loss his life has had on my life and business. As I reflect on who Keegan Spencer was, I am reminded that the countless ways he has inspired me. Keegan Spencer was more than just a friend. He was a guiding light in my life. He was a voice of wisdom. I turned to whoever I needed expert towing advice. With his vast experience, he was a shining example of excellence, and privileged to call him my friend and business partner. Payton's negligence while driving has significantly altered my life. This case has been termed a freak accident, but I'd like to highlight the importance of accountability in such situations. Did Payton's actions, speeding and using his cell phone, result in reckless decision making? If I had been driving my tow truck in similar fashions, would I face severe consequences? Why should Payton's actions be treated differently? Payton's reckless decisions have far-reaching consequences affecting all of us in profound ways. His negligence has led to significant financial burdens, including the substantial legal fees and defense battle with the state of Michigan. This ordeal has severely impacted my business and home. However, I remain committed to finding ways to heal and move forward, even in the face of such adversity. As parents, we strive to guide our children, teaching them valuable lessons and helping them grow into capable individuals. Lauren, Payton's mother, recently social media post has left me disheartened. While driving down the road, she makes a video just a year after Keegan's death about how she is alone in the car. Even though it is totally illegal, she stated she's only putting herself at risk. I'm sure that that's what her son was thinking seconds before striking my best friend. If he had been taught better, would I have had to cross that highway that day, see my best friend's lifeless body in the median of that highway? Would I have to pick his daughter up out of that tow truck that day, bawling her eyes out? Would I had to have called his father and fiancé and given the terrible news that hope I never have to give anyone again in life? I guess I will never know. I am firmly convinced that this incident was not merely a freak accident. Rather, it was a preventable tragedy resulting from neglect and distracted driving, which is being downplayed. My only hope now is that you will take a stand to ensure Payton is held accountable for his actions and neglect, which had devastating consequences, including the loss of our beloved brother, son, fiance, and friend. While the original accident on the highway was an unforeseen event, Payton's reckless behavior was entirely preventable and inexcusable. While I do not think Payton warrants a decade-long incarceration, the alternative charges seem more appropriate. Nonetheless, I am convinced that a shorter period of imprisonment would allow him to introspect and emerge a deeper understanding of the mistakes he made the day which he took Keegan Spencer from us. In the last 3 weeks, 3 state troopers, 1 fire truck, and 3 tow trucks have been struck. When will it be enough? How many of us have to be struck and injured or killed for you to start setting examples that we will not tolerate this behavior anymore? Day by day, we're losing roadside and emergency brothers and sisters. If something isn't done soon, we'll be facing the ugly truth that no one wants to be the next victim in a tow truck that is struck in the roadway. I know I don't want to be, but every morning I get back up, I get in that truck to make him proud, to keep the legacy that we're fighting so hard to build together.
Thank you.
morning.
Good morning.
What's your name?
Caleb Pyfelski. The work we do a lot of times goes unnoticed by most, unless you're a family member or a close friend to a tow op. A tow operator's family constantly worries about if they're going to make it out the door or make it back through the door when they leave on a call. Unfortunately, on November 4th, 2023, Keegan's family had their biggest fear come true. A fear that in a reality when an uncaring human named Payton Ferris was more worried about his phone than what the traffic was doing in front of him. He struck and killed my best friend and brother that I love dearly. Because of you, Payton, my family has an even bigger fear when I leave the safety of my home to go out and to help others because of people like you. My sons no longer have a Uncle Keegan to call and talk to or see at my shop. My wife no longer wants me to be doing a job in fear that I'll never come home. And I will never get a phone call or a text or anything from a best friend that I love dearly. People like you, Payton, are an exact example of what it's like to be careless, clueless, and in this unfortunate case, a murderer. That's exactly what I see when I look at you, a murderer. I truly believe that this accident could have been avoided just by simply paying attention and following the state laws of no texting and driving and slowing down and moving over. This has a direct impact on my company in trying to get my crew who goes out every day risking their lives to get their head back in the right space and not fear what could become. And I wish I could just blame you, but I can't. I believe you were raised this way, careless. Reason I say that is your mother, who is here with us today, posted on Instagram while driving down the road saying, and I quote, "All right, so I am recording, which isn't terribly legal, but so be it. I'm the only one in the car, and so it's just me at risk." I find that a slap in the face knowing that after your son killed my best friend from being on his phone, and you were the only one in the vehicle. Someone so heartless could say such a thing. The fact that you killed someone and your family continues to do the exact thing you did to cause the accident is absolutely mind-blowing. Obviously, no lessons were learned, which is why I strongly encourage this court to place a strong, harsh penalty in this case and any other struck roadside worker. Our lives matter, and today it sure doesn't feel that way. We deserve to go home to our family just as much as the police officers, EMT, and firefighters do. I can sit here and talk about my family and how this has affected them for days, but the fact of the matter is, because of your action, there's a little girl and a boy that no longer have their dad with them today. No dad to go on a daddy-daughter dance. No dad to walk them down the aisle at their wedding. Nothing but a memory. I truly believe that's the worst part about all this, and that you show no remorse. A little girl who loved their dad so much and had to watch him taken in front of her own eyes. Little Lenora was an innocent girl, this yet has cost her everything that she's ever known. I will do my best to let her know that her daddy was a hero and his life wasn't meant to be swept under the rug. I hope that when you close your eyes at night, you see Keegan's face and it haunts the hell out of you because you deserve it. You don't deserve peace. You don't deserve comfort. You are indeed a murderer. All in all, my family now lives in fear more now than ever because we know that what could actually happen did happen. You, Payton Ferris, deserve zero freedom and to be treated like the murderer that you are. Thank you.
Hi there, ma'am.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. What's your full name?
My name is Kimberly Ball.
All right, thank you.
So my name is Kim Ball, aunt of Keegan Spencer. I appreciate the opportunity to speak words about my nephew and the impact that Keegan's death has had on all of our family and friends. As you'll hear today, Keegan touched the lives and hearts of his family, his friends, and even complete strangers who needed his help. He was special, one that would go out of his way if needed anything. His kindness was exceptional. I miss my nephew. My heart aches over his absence. I miss the random messages asking if I was home as he was making a trip to Traverse City and just wanted to stop by my house on the way and say hi. I miss the quirky smile. I miss the heartfelt voice that he would tell me things about going on in his life or about his daughter, and my heart will ache for a lifetime for him. As you are aware, this tragedy has affected all involved, including our family and friends, and theirs as well. As such, I would like to reflect on my upbringing involving responsibilities and consequences of our actions. I believe society, including our legal system, strives for individuals to accept responsibility for their actions. Acceptance has many forms. They may be things including remorse, monetary compensation, incarceration, community service, and facing emotional stories of everyone impacted by the significant loss perpetuated by the tragedy. When most of us think about consequences, we think of it as some sort of punishment for bad behavior. We have to live with the consequences of our actions, but we need to think more broadly than that. We go through life making decisions with the intent of kindness, while other times with bad judgment. But we always have an effect on the world and the people around us. The acceptance of our actions teaches us, trains our minds, and guides us in the future over decision making. I realize acceptance of responsibility is a very difficult and uncomfortable position. However, true acceptance means not making excuses and facing your victims. These victims include family and friends, to understand how one's individual actions had altered their lives forever. Throughout these proceedings, it was noted that the defendant attended via video conference. Although this may have been within his legal right to do so, it also shielded him to some degree from truly accepting his responsibility. The perception of this decision could easily be construed as an attempt at self-preservation, rather than acknowledgement of any wrongdoing or acceptance of responsibility of the role he played. Mr. Ferris stands before you as a man who, while operating his vehicle, took the life of my nephew, Keegan Spencer. His actions created a ripple effect like one in a pond, spreading out and affecting not just Keegan, but his family and friends, that will never stop. As a responsible citizen, from the moment he sat behind the wheel of a motor vehicle, he should assume responsibility for everything that he did while in that vehicle. It does not matter if it's roadside construction, an emergency worker assisting another, a first responder, or someone simply changing a tire on the side of the road. He should be held responsible for properly and safely navigating his vehicle down that roadway. He should be responsible for being aware of his surroundings, for slowing down when other traffic does, maintaining a safe and legal speed, a safe distance for those around him, and not allowing himself to become distracted. That's everyone's responsibility as a driver. You're part of the action, and if you cannot, then you should be ready to accept the consequences of your decisions. There is no way to go back to that day and change what happened. I wish I never knew Mr. Ferris. I wish our worlds did not collide on that November day. I wish our families did not have to endure this tragedy caused by his actions. A tragedy that, had decisions been made differently, had Mr. Ferris' actions been different, would never have happened. And I also wish I truly knew if he accepted his own responsibilities. I do not envy your position, Your Honor. In navigating the complexities of the tragedy, in making a ruling there are many factors which have to be considered, including acceptance of responsibility. I suspect the final decision will have to be made in a matter that attempts to serve societal expectations, while at the same time providing acceptable consequences to the defendant. Emotions are high, and I fear acceptable consequences cannot be reached unless there is some way to bring Keegan back. Unfortunately, that is not a decision the court can provide. But I do ask you, Your Honor, that Mr. Ferris's actions do not go unanswered. I ask for justice for Keegan. I would like to pray for everyone who's been impacted by this tragedy, including Your Honor. Whatever decision is rendered, I hope the memory of Keegan is not lost and that Mr. Ferris learns a valuable lesson for his lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I have Matt, Nico, and Sharon. Are you Sharon? Are you Sharon?
I am Sharon.
Okay, could you put your, state your full name, please?
Sharon Langford.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Langford.
I am Keegan's grandma. Keegan was my first grandchild and only grandson. From the very beginning, we had a special bond. As a child, Keegan spent a lot of time with us. We have a pool and he loved to swim. We baked cookies. He loved Jell-O with whipped cream, which he called frosting. One Christmas, he wanted to make the whipped cream. He whipped it, and unbeknownst to me, he added the sugar. The whipped cream was almost pure sugar. Key and Grandpa would go camping in the woods behind our home. They would put up the tent, build a fire, roast hot dogs and marshmallows. Every year, we spread 30 yards of mulch. Key was there to help us every year. When he was 5 or 6 years old, he shoveled 2 yards of mulch off our truck all by himself. Even at that young age, he had a great work ethic. As he got older, he was there to help us no matter what. We took Key and his sister Maggie to Disney World, Toledo Zoo, Cedar Point, many other places. We made many trips with Key and Mags. Keegan's Grandpa Don had a record business, and as a baby, Keegan would ride along on the record calls. Key would spot a wrecker on the road long before we saw it. He would say, "Tow truck." Wreckers were in his blood at a very young age. Then Key's dad, Matt, started a wrecker service. Matt was a second-generation tow operator. Key was a third-generation tow operator and was just getting ready to start his own business. I do believe if Keegan had not had his life cut short by a distracted driver, Nora, Keegan's daughter, who was with him when he was struck and killed, possibly would have been a fourth-generation tower. She has towing in her blood too. She loved to go with her daddy. By the time Key was 9 or 10 years old, he could hook up a car all by himself. It was hooked right and ready to be towed. People were in awe and they would ask, "Does he really know how to do that?" At the age of 16, Key started driving wrecker for his dad and gained much experience. Many times his tower friends would call Keegan and tell him they had this situation. "What do you think I should do?" Or if Keegan was able, he would drop whatever he was doing and go help them. Sometimes he would drive an hour or so just to help a tower friend. After he was killed, they had bracelets made up that said WWKD. What would Keegan do? Key was a hard worker and worked many long hours in the snow, the heat, and the rain. He would say, "It's a good day to be a duck." Key would call me and say, "Grandma, I have a few minutes between calls. Will you make me some French toast or scrambled eggs? I'll be there in 10 minutes. He always gave me a hug and a kiss when he got there, and a hug and a kiss and an "I love you" when he left. We knew Key had a lot of friends, but had no idea how many until over 1,100 came to his visitation. 600 to 700 tow trucks with over 1,300 attending his funeral. Towers from all over the country and Canada reached out to our family. They had met Key over social media. Key was a person that if you met him once, you liked him and remembered him. He built hundreds of relationships this way. I met a gentleman who owns a huge tow company when we were at the Chattanooga Tow Museum, where Key was inducted on the Wall of the Fallen. He told me he doesn't have time for most young kids in the tow business because they feel the world owes them. They are lazy. But there are 2 young men that he has met that he had the utmost respect for. Keegan was one of them. He said Key would have really gone places in his life had not had not his life been cut short by a distracted, speeding driver who was on his phone 13 seconds between hitting him. Payton, traveling at 80 miles per hour, you are traveling 117 seconds per second. My husband is a retired state trooper, and he was an accident reconstructionist, and he calculated this out for me. Payton, the day you struck and killed Keegan was one of the worst days of my life. I remember when Key's dad got the phone call from a fellow tower that a record driver from Towzilla had been struck and killed. My body went limp. Then I was in denial, telling myself it wasn't Keegan. Matt immediately left, and within a few minutes, Key's sister Maggie was there. I kept telling her that we don't know it was Keegan. She kept telling me, Grandma, it was Keegan. I just couldn't accept it. I was in a fog for months. I still wait for him to call, text, or walk through the door. Key loved his family, especially his daughter Lenora. He was so proud the day she was born. You could see the love in his beautiful blue eyes, and she loved him. She was a daddy's girl, and you took that from her. Nora will never have her daddy at her first day of school, or to go to a daddy-daughter dance, or be at graduation, or walk her down the aisle when she gets married. Key and Nora will not be able to celebrate any of her milestones together. Because you chose to speed and be on your phone, her daddy is gone. Key only got to celebrate one Christmas, one Thanksgiving, and one birthday with her. Key also loved his soon-to-be stepson, Riker. Payton, you killed him on November 4th, and on November 15th, Key and Riker had plans to go hunting. Because of you, that little boy didn't get to do that. Key loved his family and worked very long and hard hours to support them. He was the provider for that family. Lenora was in the wrecker with her daddy the day you struck and killed him, taking him away from all of us. When the day came I could think straight, I didn't want you, Payton, to go to jail for a long period of time because you were 18 and I thought you would have to live with what you had done for the rest of your life. You have drugged this grieving family through hell. We have been to court 6 or 7 times with you showing up twice, even though at your arraignment, which you did not show up for, the judge told you you would be at all future court dates, and you said you understood. The first time you showed up, you, your family, your attorney met with the prosecutor. Our family and some of the tour friends of Key's were out in the hall waiting. When you and your family walked past us, showing no remorse, you were all smirking as if to you and your family it was just another fun-filled day in the Ferris household. No big deal. Second time you showed up was to enter your no contest plea. Because of you and your family's attitudes, I hope and pray justice will be served for Keegan and our family, and you spend a year in jail, maximum fines and penalties, and I would love it if the judge would make you pay child support for Nora until she is 18 years old or graduates. You and your friends have been posting pictures on social media of you, Payton, living your best life. These are your words, not mine. You show no remorse that I can see for what you have done. I have seen pictures that you have posted on social media of you and your girlfriend while you were driving and you were taking selfies. Then your mother posts a video of her going to the grocery store She made this video while driving, even stating, "This is against the law, but oh well, I'm alone." I'm sure Thanksgiving was a joyful time for your family because you were there to celebrate with them. We have had our second Thanksgiving without Key and preparing for our second Christmas without him. All we can do is sit around and talk about him. I hope and pray your mother doesn't have you home for Christmas this year, so she can see how it feels to have an empty chair at a holiday event. Maybe she won't think driving distracted is so funny then. In a way, I feel sorry for you, Payton, because it looks like you have never been taught there are consequences for your actions. Well, young man, I hope and pray today will be the day you learn there are consequences for your actions. I hope the judge gives you the maximum penalties, 1 year in jail, fines, costs, restitution for the funeral expenses, and child support. Maybe then this won't be such a joke to you and your family. Let your family try to enjoy Christmas or any other holiday or family get-together without you. With the attitude you and your family have, I think it would be good for you and them to experience what you and your I think it would be good for you and them to experience what Keegan's family is going through. For us, it is forever. For you and them, it is just 1 year. I am so blessed that the day before you killed Keegan, he called me just to say, "Grandma, I love you and Grandpa more than you will ever know." And I was able to tell him we loved him more.
Thank you, Ms. Langford.
And then I'm Andrew as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Andrew Heikup, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Your Honor, my name is Andrew Heikup, and I stand before this court today as an individual, speaking only on behalf of myself, not in any official capacity or behalf of my employer. I'm here as a friend of Keegan Spencer, and as someone who, like Keegan, dedicated his life to protecting others on our roadways. Keegan and I shared countless hours on the front lines, responding to emergency calls, battling perilous conditions, and putting our own safety on the line to ensure the well-being of others. We both know the risks, yet we did the work because it mattered, because every life we saved, every vehicle we recovered was worth the sacrifice. But no amount of training, vigilance, or courage could prepare us for the senseless, preventable tragedy that claimed Keegan's life on that fateful day. Keegan was struck and killed by an 18-year-old who couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the road. Keegan wasn't just a name on a case file. He was a son, a friend, a father, a beloved member of our tight-knit community, and a lifeline to those in crisis. His life was cut short because of sheer reckless disregard for the value of human life. Keegan is gone forever. His family will never see his smile again, never hear his laughter, never watch him grow old. His friends, including myself, will forever feel the void of his absence, haunted by the knowledge that we lost one of the finest among us to someone who couldn't be bothered to look up from the distraction. Yet here we are today, faced with the horrifying prospect that the person who took Keegan from us may receive a mere slap on the wrist. Your Honor, anything short of the maximum sentence permitted by law is an insult, not only to Keegan, but to every roadside and emergency worker who puts their life on the line every and each day. If our lives mean so little, then what message does that send? What does it say to the public, to the families of those who serve, to our brothers and sisters who are already bracing for the next moment of danger? I implore this court to understand that Keegan's death cannot be reduced to an unfortunate accident with minimal consequences. It was an act of negligence with irreversible ramifications. 1 year may be the most you can impose, but even that falls woefully short of the justice Keegan deserves. Anything less is a dereliction of the duty we owe to him, to his family, and to every single one of us who continue to work in harm's way. Should this court choose leniency, I will not stand idle. I will call for a week-long boycott in the Metro Grand Rapids area where every towing operation grinds to a halt. Additionally, I will organize hundreds of trucks to block roads across the Metro Grand Rapids area, causing traffic disruptions, an approach that has proven extremely successful in protests across the world, such as when farmers use it to great effect. The public will experience firsthand what it means to live without the services of men and women like Keegan, and maybe they will understand the price we pay every day. This is not a threat, but a wake-up call, a chance for this community to really appreciate the lives we risk and the cost we bear. Justice for Keegan. Anything less is a disgrace to his memory and a betrayal to those who remain. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, Matthew, could I wasn't on the list, I was supposed to be. Can I just say something before you talk? No, I'm sorry. That's okay.
Are you on the defense side?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was.
Not at this time, okay?
Yeah, okay.
This is the family's opportunity at this time. Would you like me to see that, ma'am? Do you want me to, or are you just putting it there?
I'm just gonna put him here for a minute.
Okay.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Nico Alicia Garrison.
Please, go ahead.
I'm Keegan's mom. There's something that I would like just a minute, so you can hear. That's not just somebody we're speaking of today. I want you to feel the human that took my granddaughter's father.
Hi, beautiful girl. Hi. Hi. Hi, beautiful girl. You know you're beautiful. You know you're beautiful. You know you're beautiful.
It's not just you at risk. It was my son and my granddaughter in that truck. Was it just you at risk? Don't shed tears. He came home every day. Every day.
Ms. Garrison, I need you can't address people in the gallery. You have to address the court, please.
I have thought a lot about what I wanted to say today. It will be my one and only chance in this life to ever speak on behalf of my son to the person who stole him from me. On 11/4/23, Keegan had plans that day and had lifetime goals and plans for his future. He was an extraordinary individual who touched a lot of lives. He was young but versed in his tow community, as he was a third-generation tow truck driver in our family. Keegan was in a tow truck by 6 months of age. Hooked his first car up at 6 years old with assistance of his grip dad. Keegan was a proud, happy father who also was about to marry the love of his life. You see, I don't think that people or the judicial system truly get the value of human life, because if they did, circumstances and outcomes would fit the crimes and charges brought against the individuals who caused such devastation and loss due to their poor choices. I recall every moment of 11/4/23. I knew at my daughter's screeching voice on that phone. I knew, and I'm not ashamed that my soul left my body. I fell to the floor. I lost bodily functions. And I screamed to God, because 30 years ago, my dad was hit and killed in the same manner. Payton, you reached out to me on May 15th through Messenger, told me you were not distracted or on your phone. And guess what? I almost believed you, especially when you said, I will tell you everything, and guess what? Turned out you lied to me. Hard facts are you were speeding 80 miles per hour and on the phone 13 seconds prior to impacting Keegan. 80 miles per hour is 117 feet per second. You were still messing with your phone, and when you struck and killed my son, you continued another 30 or 40 yards without braking. I pray my son didn't see you coming. I pray my son didn't feel a thing. In fact, we've been told he was struck so hard that he didn't even bleed out. And you know why? Only people who get struck by lightning experience that. I thought I may have had some room to give you grace for being honest, because I believe in God and God believed in grace. But now I have no grace. It's not for me to give. It is in the hands of God and also karma. You have dragged out the outcome of this justice system in a very cowardly manner. Keegan would have never done this to any other family. If he was in your shoes, he would have owned up to his actions and took his punishment. He would not ask for a judge to give an insight to his punishment. He would have taken it with no questions asked, because he was such a compassionate individual. And he would have never lived with himself if he caused someone to lose their life, let alone in front of their child. I think most people overlook the fact that you killed my son in front of his daughter. She had a front row seat, sitting up there in that big truck that morning. I think most of you really overlook that it doesn't just affect Keegan, it affects my granddaughter. How lucky you are that your family can gather around you as you walk down the hallway past us, the one and only time that you really actually showed up to court. And one of your family members even had the nerve to tell us to get over it. It's a tragic accident. You know what? It is a total preventable accident. It was a choice that you made to drive reckless and distracted. And for that, I do not feel like it was just an accident. The last time we gathered around Keegan was at his funeral to say goodbye. As a mother, I have lost part of my legacy. I have lost my little boy whom I raised and who I loved so very much. He will never have the opportunity to raise his daughter, which is his legacy. I will not see him marry. I will not dance with him at his wedding. I will not see him achieve his goals he set because you stole his future with no remorse, which is something that I would like to say is very, very frustrating. And on that note, I would like to bring something to your attention. You do realize that fishing and making Facebook reels for the public to see, or your YouTube page that you post about you fishing, even your latest video 3 months ago, that shows no remorse. This hasn't affected you. I've seen the pictures of you driving. What was that pink headband you had on? Posting your selfie in the truck with your girlfriend? November 2023, happy Thanksgiving. I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could go on and act like nothing's happened, because I value human life and I have respect for human life. You have literally gone to social media and made these videos and posts like your world has never stopped turning. But for our family, it has. We're still at 11/4/23. You have not learned your lesson, even after taking Keegan's life. My hope for your future is that you may grow up someday and that you remember 11/4/23 and you see it and hear it every bit over and over in your mind for the rest of your life. Because every day I sit and wonder over and over if my son even saw, had time to fear, if he tried to run from you. I wonder what the last thought in his head was. Remember on your birthday that Keegan will never celebrate another birthday because of your actions. When you get your paycheck, you remember that Keegan can't work or provide for his family because of your actions. That on Christmas, while you celebrate with your family, that is Keegan's favorite holiday. And he can't celebrate or open gifts with his family because of your actions. That when you hug your mom, remember that he's not here and he can no longer hug me. In fact, the last hug I got from my son was 2 days before he died. And that's the last time I ever heard I love you. That if you're lucky enough that you get to get married, and that even when picking out the ring, because I got to pick out the ring with my son, when you get to pick out the ring and you get to say I do, remember Keegan doesn't get to do that because of your actions like he should have this fall. That if you are blessed with children and they reach their milestones, that you remember that there is a little girl who will not have any milestone that include her dad in any of them. When you set up your tree stand or you go out on your fishing trips, know that Keegan loved to do all of that and was getting ready to take his stepson that Sunday to go set up that tree stand to take him out hunting. Last but not least, when you get to spend time with your siblings, remember Keegan loved his siblings and had a little brother and a little sister who looked up to him. And he protected them with his entire soul, and you have stolen that from them. I hope that a dark cloud hangs on you because Keegan deserved justice. He did not deserve to die at the mercy of your hands because of your poor choices. Payton, I would be curious to know, since you dragged this out for so long, if you could even look at my granddaughter in the face and say, what? Sorry, it's a tragic accident. Sorry, I was in a rush and had to take the call, but I'm not guilty for taking your dad's life. I mean, we just had a 13-year-old who admitted his guilt for killing Jack Snyder. But you're a grown 19-year-old man that can't even utter the words to at least show some remorse to the family. You don't even have to say it, just no contest. So you don't actually have to say you're guilty, but in your message you said to me, and I quote, "You are correct, I took your son's life. Your son had absolutely zero fault in the accident in front of the truck," end quote. You saw his truck lights and still chose that route. You did not have a semi sitting on the right, like you said. You told me. You had a semi that was behind you. And even after admitting it to me in your own words, you still stand here and plead no contest instead of doing the right thing, which would be admitting and pleading guilty. This shows me no remorse for your actions. You have a lot of growing up to do, and you can't outrun the truth or God. So on that note, just know this. Just because my granddaughter is little doesn't mean she doesn't remember any part of that day, because she does. And she serves her own life sentence of grace just because of your actions. Lenora Rain Spencer cannot hear sirens without her face going blank and her head bowing down, and her mind goes to a place that she is not sure of yet. But she knows she doesn't like it. And I have witnessed this with my own eyes I also work in pediatrics, and at her age, they do start to retain memories, and someday she's going to learn why she retains those memories. Lenora will only know her dad by photos, videos, and stories. So Payton, you should prepare yourself, because she is going to grow up someday and this little girl will probably seek you out and ask you why. So I hope by then you will be an honest man and own up to what you have taken from her, even if she does reach out to you. I hope every detail of that day sticks with you until your last dying breath, the song on the radio, the sound of the car, the flashing lights from his truck, the sound of you impacting my son and obliterating him. I hope it sticks with you. I would have had different words for you today if you'd own up to your actions and was honest to me, but you sent the same generic message to me that you sent Olivia. I am just disgusted now by the lack of honesty and humanity. Good luck, and do yourself a favor and keep a good buddy with a tow strap on your side, because the tow community knows your name from here to Canada. Everyone knows your name and what you did on 11/4/23, and you will never, ever be assisted by any of these good men on the white line. Never. They know your names, they know your faces, and you deserve that. We've had to grieve publicly since this has happened. So on that note, I will leave you with this, a very quick message.
Alright, so recording this way probably is not terribly legal, but so be it. I'm alone in my car, so it's just me at risk, you know? But I'm
Just you at risk. All of them are at risk.
Miko, is this your stuff?
Yep. Go ahead.
My name is Matt Spencer. I'm Keegan's father. I'm really kind of taken back by all the people that are here today supporting my son. I knew Keegan was a unique individual from the second he was born, but it took his death for me to find out how truly unique he was. We had towers from across the nation reaching out to us. What I didn't know is Keegan was connected in some forums. These towers, this young generation of towers, they're all connected through social media. Keegan was in this one forum that was over 1,500 towers from coast to coast. So this story has resonated across the nation. And that started early on. Our funeral home director had people from other states as far away from as Florida calling them and asking if they needed any help. He had never heard of such a thing. And he said, your towing community is pretty damn unique. For me to get funeral home directors from this all over this country calling to see how they could help us, because this was going to be a big funeral. My son is in this casket, Payton and family, fellow towers. That's Keegan. Keegan wanted to have a final ride to be on the back of his tow truck. This is Olivia that's running the controls to tilt it down. While his family and friends carried his casket to and from that tow truck. I gotta tell you, Payton, I went to Washington, D.C. last March with 60 fellow towers from all over the country. This magazine cover, I walked in to legislators, and I go, this is my son. I instantly had their attention that we've got to do something in this nation. This just isn't a Michigan problem. This just isn't a Grand Rapids problem. That we have distracted drivers all over this great country that are not following the law and that are not moving over and slowing down for emergency workers. There are 2 roadside workers struck a day in the United States. Every 6 days, an emergency roadside worker is killed. And with the attitude of your mother and the, oh, well, I know it's legal, I don't know how you can look at these law enforcement people that are in the room when their brothers and sisters are out getting struck on the road weekly. Just since Thanksgiving, I believe there's been 7 Michigan State Police cruisers hit, 4 fire trucks, 2 of them right in our area here, and 4 tow trucks have been hit just since Thanksgiving. You, Payton, and your family have given me the tools to go across this nation with this magazine cover and get the loopholes in the law changed that you helped expose. That was from my heart.
Mr. Spencer, would you mind handing that magazine? I looked it up online, but I'd
Yeah,
like to actually see the physical
absolutely.
copy.
In here, we had 600 towers from across the nation, came as far away as Kentucky to support our family. It was 7 miles from the staging area of all the tow trucks to the church. It took over 2.5 hours to park the over 600 tow trucks that showed up. That is the support that they were here for this young man. And
Thank you.
I have a profound letter. This is from a 7-year-old girl. Her mother reached out to me because this death has just devastated this little girl. Keegan was special to me. He was kind and sweet and friendly. He helped anybody with everything they needed. He was a kid like myself. He was my friend. That's Zoe. Keegan helped her mother. And that had such a profound effect on that little girl that she had reached out and wrote that. This was a letter that I got out of countless, I can't even tell you, hundreds of letters I've got. But this one was pretty special because I'll never forget the day I sent Keegan on this. It said, Mr. Spencer, my husband and I met your son when he came to our home last year to move a cabin for me. He was sweet, kind, enthusiastic, and very good at what he knew. Our hearts are broken over your loss. And when we attended the downtown procession of tow trucks, nothing will let us forget Keegan that day. Sometimes as parents, we are unsure of our methods, but it was easy to see that you raised a great kid. He will always have a small part in our hearts. I hope these treats bring you some smiles. These were folks that Keegan went out and helped. Countless stories. But this one was special because it was a very unique job. And Keegan, when I sent him out there, he called me back. He goes, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this, Dad. And I'm like, dude, if anybody can get it done, it would be you. And it took him several hours, but he got it done. And it was a very impactful moment in those people's lives as well. So on November 4th, 2023, at approximately 10:45 a.m., my life changed forever. It was a colder but mild fall day, and I was walking out of my house to start my day when all of a sudden I heard an air horn from a big truck go by my home. I knew it was Keegan because ask any of Keegan's friends, man, he loved that air horn, and he would blow it for as long as he could, right? I called him and we spoke about the 4 cars he had moved that day, where he was going, and that Lenora, his daughter, was with him. This was around 9 o'clock. I tried calling Keegan back around 10 or 10:30 because I'm like, man, it's gonna be a nice day today, and we were gonna start a hunting tradition. I went out and bought 4 hunting shacks, and I needed his help finishing up, getting those set up so we could start our new family tradition on November 15th, which I know you can relate because you're an outdoorsman. At around 10 to 10:30, I tried calling Keegan, and I had no answer. It was weird because I knew where he should be at. He should be on the road. I didn't really think much of it. A short time later, I received a call from Keith Baker, who I met through Keegan, and we became close friends. The state trooper just left one of his locations to go to a fatal collision involving a tow truck in Grand Rapids. I instantly told Keith, which Keith is in the room today with us, I go, Keith, it's him. I know it was him. I know what he was doing, and I can't get a hold of him, but he's not answering his phone, and I'll make some phone calls and get back to you. I called AJ, who is Keegan's best friend and co-owner, with him from Towzilla, the partnership they just created a week prior to his death. That's right, Payton. A week prior, my son was living his dream of being an owner of his own business with his best friend. I tried calling AJ 3 times. The first 2 times I just went to voicemail, and I just kept calling because I know something's up. On the 3rd attempt, AJ answered. Just by the tone of his voice, I knew it was Keegan. What I didn't know until later on is he could not answer the phone because there was a state trooper standing right next to him because he was fighting with the trooper to get my granddaughter out of the truck because she had sat there all by herself for at least 45 minutes because the police wouldn't let her get out of the vehicle. It was the safest place for her. The trooper said, AJ, don't you answer the phone. He goes, it's his dad. No, AJ, we're sending police to notify the family. And I just kept calling. He finally ended up walking away from the trooper and told me the truth. He ended up getting my granddaughter out of the tow truck so she had a familiar face. I was in shock and hysterically crying as I called Keith back and told him it was Keegan. I told my parents, because I was at their house at the time, I told them what had happened. I called his sister and I ran out to my car and started driving to the scene of the collision. I just did that. I don't know why. Out the door I went. As I was driving, I realized that this was going to get on social media fast. Who do I call? What loved ones do I want to hear this from me? Because I knew it was going to get on Facebook fast, which it did. It only took 15 minutes to get out on social media. As I drove up, I was hysterical. I called my best friend and business partner, Joe Detmer, because he lived right down the road from me, but he wasn't available to ride with me. So I started driving, and I had to keep pulling over because I couldn't see straight. I was crying hysterically, and then I would stop. And I go, oh my God, I gotta call this person. I gotta call this person. When I got up to the accident to get off from M6, the state police had or the county had the road blocked, and they told us to go to the park and ride just north of M6 on Broadmoor and wait for MSP to come talk to us. Within an hour, we had hundreds of tow trucks just starting coming into the park and ride just to hang out and support one another. I've never seen anything like that. We just had a bunch of total strangers, a lot of friends that just came and hung out. Didn't say a whole lot, hugged, and were just there. Our towing family had lost one to a senseless act. Once the police came and informed us of the initial findings of the collision, we were told it was an early 20s female that lost control of the car as the vehicles in front of her car were slowing, and to avoid hitting said vehicles, she swerved to the left and struck and killed Keegan, who was outside of his truck. Speed was a factor. Speed was a factor. And don't know why cars were slowing, police said, but 45 minutes prior to the collision, the police had a report of a dog running loose, slowing traffic. But there was no evidence of a dog. The news media has blasted that. We have taken a lot of heat from social media. Do stupid things, stupid results happen to you. People were blaming my son for his death. As you and your family liked those comments, it was like a knife getting jammed into my heart. There is no evidence of a dog. None. And let's get that clear. Even with the news media, there was no evidence of a dog. No one knows why Keegan stopped that day. We can only assume that he stopped to help in a situation that he felt he could help, because he was a servant that way. Keegan was raised to serve. His grandpa served early on in the fire department, a volunteer fire department. We were instilled in that public service. That's why we were gravitated to the towing industry. Ask any tower in here. We serve the public even when they don't deserve to be served. We get beat up out there. We're getting run over. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in this nation. And it's just a slap in the face that you are even getting a misdemeanor on this. Keegan parked his truck as safely as he could and activated his emergency lamps and proceeded to exit his truck. Keegan was off the roadway when you came within a couple feet from the front of his truck and struck and killed him while his 16-month-old daughter watched. Keegan never would have stopped in that situation if he didn't feel his actions could help. It would have been difficult for him to turn around and get to his destination, and time would have been a huge factor in his decision to stop. AJ was waiting for him at the tow destination, and where he parked, he would have struggled to get turned around efficiently and fast, just like pulling off to the side of the road, do your business, and then just keep going. Payton, you struck our son so hard he died instantly. After he hit the front of your car, and then he hit your windshield and went 45 yards forward. Did you get out to help him? Did you even try to save his life? What's the last thing you thought when he hit your windshield? These are all questions that go through my mind quite a bit. Once we picked up his truck from the scene of the collision, we went back to the park and ride to gather all that had come to support and convoyed back to Hastings. Well over 100 tow trucks had showed up. That was one of the hardest moments of my life. As one of my good friends and fellow tow business owners, PJ Daly, hauled me and my car back to Hastings. I couldn't drive, and I can only imagine what went through my friend's head as he just sat there with me as I cried. He was just there, and he's here today. What you don't realize as tow truck owners is every day we face sending our people out into harm's way. We live with that burden that our decisions can cost that person their life. And know that it's daunting on all of us, and we don't take it lightly. So as PJ hauled me back into Hastings and we pulled into the college, to the Kellogg Community College parking lot, I've never felt such sorrow with a hint of pride that my son had touched so many people that night. I couldn't believe all the just community members that came out and just hung out. And that night I gave 3 speeches that no father should have to do. Two were to news media, and 1 was to the crowd that gathered. What I didn't know was that day I was finding the courage to publicly speak. I'm not one to do that. I've never been one to publicly speak, and this has made me find the courage to tell my story to whoever will listen. Payton, I cannot forgive you for killing my son. I truly don't feel you understand the implications of your actions that day. Your actions over the past year have proven you really haven't suffered a loss. You're delaying this court case along, not coming to court dates when Keegan's family showed up, and from you and your family laughing and smiling as you walked past us in the hallway. You reached out to Keegan's fiancé and mother and stated there was nothing you could have done. Yes, Payton, one thing you could have done was just slow down. Just slow down when you saw the emergency lamps. Does that ever go through your mind? You ever sit back and wonder what if you just would have slowed down? You had your cruise control set at 80. That day, you intentionally got in your car to drive intentionally safely. We all do that. You intentionally opened your car door to get into your vehicle. Intentionally put the key in the ignition, started the car. Put your foot on the brake, put your car into drive. So many intentional events took place for you to be driving, and one intentional thing you could have done was to abide by the move over law. You could have slowed down, been off your phone in your car. On social media, you liked all the comments that people were making that said, my son created this. Your social media says that you're living your best life. And it seemed nothing has really changed for you. For me, life has changed a lot. The day you killed Keegan, we were going to finish setting up our 4 hunting shacks. Keegan and I had earlier in the year made a pact that we were going to start a family tradition with him and his kids. We're going to hunt deer. Keegan had wanted to do this for years, and I just didn't take the time. This was going to be a special year of first, I felt. I did get to go hunting, but without my kid. I cried a lot, talked to God, and I talked to you. That day you ended the Spencer name. Keegan was the last Spencer in my dad's family, I believe. You took my firstborn and my only son. A little girl only will know her daddy from someone else's point of view. She will never know a true father's love. A true father's love is when you will get pushed out of your comfort zone for the greater good of that child. You'll defend them, fight for them, let them fall, and help them back up. You'll do almost anything to protect them and to honor them. I'm honoring my son by leaving a legacy in his name for change. That I can change the driving public's behavior. You know, the behavior like yours. Your mom in her car recording how she knew she was breaking the law, distracted driving. Keegan may still be here today if you had just slowed down. I'm well on my way of learning how to publicly speak, and now have found the courage to tell our story. That's correct, Payton. You, your mom, Keegan, and I have been chosen for this story. I will continue to share this story all over the country as I've been doing for the past year. You and your family have given me the tools to use to make this change. Some of the things I have done, I have made one educational video with a company called Haas Alert, who has technology to alert a driver before they approach a tow truck or any emergency vehicle. My son was honored and had his name put on the wall of the fallen. That's where tow truck drivers have their name put on this monument down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the Towing and Recovery Museum. I spoke the day that my son's name was being put on that wall. I told Keegan's story to industry leaders and fellow family members who lost loved ones in the line of towing. Keegan's name is on the wall in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with hundreds of fellow fallen tow operators. You have helped me find the courage to keep telling his story as I went to Washington, D.C. and spoke to legislators and told them of my son being killed by a distracted, speeding driver. I've done several podcasts on the killing of my son, spoke at a first responder awareness event at the Michigan State Police Post in Taylor, Michigan, and now have the attention of the Michigan State Police, insurance companies, MDOT, MIOSHA. The Secretary of State has even heard your story. We're working with state senators and representatives to get the laws changed that you have seemed to have found the loopholes to get a simple slap on your hand. As the judge has already stated, she is leaning towards no jail time. I have gone to Lansing to the Capitol and walked from office to office finding anyone to listen to this story. I've become the executive director of Move Over Michigan, which is a nonprofit that is committed to raising awareness of Keegan's and other tow operators' deaths and near misses. To educate the public on the efforts of distracted driving and the need for a uniform move over and distracted driving law from state to state, I have networked with fellow tow operators throughout the country, and we are getting organized to start a federal nonprofit, and our story will be told to millions. You will be the catalyst. Your story, your videos, your and my story will be the catalyst for change. And it isn't just in Michigan. It's going to go all over. It already is all over. In the next week, I'll be doing an educational video with MIOSHA. MIOSHA reached out to me because they know that this is a big problem, but they can't get family members to speak about it. I would encourage you to come along on that journey and tell your story so others will not make the same mistakes as you have made. Payton, our story will be told until I get the nation's attention that speeding, distracted driving, not abide by the move over law, will no longer be tolerated. You killed a great man, and you need to pay for that. You either can pay that price today or tomorrow. The choice is yours and Judge Holt. I'm not the one to pass down the sentence today for you, nor am I to judge you today. If I were, you would spend at least 6 months in jail. Then you'd get work release, and you would spend another 3 months of going to jail at night. You get out at 6 o'clock in the morning and be back at 6 o'clock at night and spend every weekend in jail. And then after that, if you successfully get through that, you spend the rest of your sentence weekends in jail. You deserve to spend Christmas behind bars. We're about right. Our family, in the first 2 months of Keegan's death, we had his birthday, we had Thanksgiving, we had Christmas. You need to go without. It needs to be painful. You need to show to the public that there is a price to be paid for the negligence that you did. I agree with the paid child support. My daughter is 18. You took the earner out of that family. They're struggling, which they shouldn't be, because of some poor choices by a young 18-year-old driver. You have served me with a life sentence without my son, and I feel you should have to feel discomfort as well. You should have to go on the side of the road, sit there and find out how scary it is to have a car go by you at 80 miles an hour and 5 to 6 inches away from you. No one's going to stop me from telling this story all over this country. I feel sorry for you, Payton, as leadership in your family has failed you, and it's obvious that your mother has had a negative view of the distracted driving law, and she has failed to teach her son the proper etiquette for roadway safety. I'm going to Washington, D.C. in February with fellow tow operators in the Towing and Recovery Association of America again, and we are going to be more united in our message, and now have this story and the tools you've given me for the example of why change is needed. In March, I'm going to Gainesville, Florida with Randy Meyer Racing to unveil the new NHRA drag racing slow down move over car and to tell Keegan's story to a national news media and the entire NHRA community. We'll be going to the Florida, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Texas, Maryland, and many other tow conventions to tell the story for the second year. I can no longer work in my towing business or get in a tow truck since you killed my son. You've taken away that. I don't understand how these young guys that get into tow trucks every day, I don't know how they do it. My life has been turned upside down, and every day I wake up, ask myself what I could have done 3 years ago to have saved my son's life. This has become my and Keegan's legacy. I will not stop until I get the laws changed and the motoring public starts respecting all roadside workers. In closing, I often wonder if you count your blessings. You exposed the loopholes in the move over law. Keegan's truck was 90 degrees to the road and not parallel. You get out of a 15-year felony because of that loophole. That the distracted driving law is flawed and now a time factor needs to be put into that law. You were on your phone 13 seconds before you killed a man. You should be going to prison. How can a state trooper hit a man at a much lower speed and face murder and homicide charges? You should be going to prison. As you are judged today, ask yourself this question. What do I want the ending of this story to look like? A man that stood up and was judged and sentenced fairly? Or a man who skated by, got the minimum that he could have possibly received? I will be telling this story to everyone and anyone I can. I promise you that.
Roberta, would you please hand this to Mr. Spencer? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak on behalf of Keegan? Yeah, I will. Come on up. Hi there.
Hi, my name's Sam Bruce.
Your name is what?
Sam Bruce.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Bruce.
Keegan was not just a tow truck driver that Mr. Ferris fatally struck on November 4th, 2023. He was a son, a brother, a cousin, a nephew, and an uncle, and a fiancé, a father, a friend to many. He was truly a blessing to have. It was truly a blessing to have Keegan in our life. I never witnessed anyone come close to the saying that they give the shirt off their back until I met Keegan. He would drop everything. If you needed him, he would come, no questions asked. He was so kind and had one of the biggest hearts. Keegan was the type of person who lit up a room whenever he entered it. He was the only person I knew who could make you so mad, and then have you laughing until you were crying 5 minutes later. Keegan's pride and joy was his daughter Nora. He was meant to be a girl dad. He was always in awe of her and everything she did. Nora was his little sidekick and his true mini-me. Keegan would never put his daughter in danger. Whatever the true reason is that Keegan pulled off into the authorized vehicle lane was for, must have been for a good reason. He saw something that he must have thought needed his attention. Keegan was robbed of his life. Nora was robbed of her father. Olivia was robbed of her forever. Miko and Matt were robbed of their son. Maggie and Jack were robbed of their brother. And a huge community was robbed of their friend. Payton Ferris chose to be negligent on the highway that day. He was distracted. Something on his phone must have been more important than any life around him. Due to his actions, he sentenced Keegan to death, and his little girl had to witness it. Every time I hear that Mr. Ferris is being charged with a misdemeanor, it disgusts me and makes me sick to my stomach. He chose to be negligent that day, and the result was taking a life. Mr. Ferris should be made an example of distracted driving. Charging him with a misdemeanor is a slap in the face to a whole lot of people. A misdemeanor charge is letting us know that it is okay to hit and kill somebody. That's a disgrace. Mr. Ferris has not shown any remorse for his actions. If Keegan had been in his position, he would have owed up to that. Keegan would have pled guilty and admitted his wrongdoing. Mr. Ferris is too much of a coward. This is a person who doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong. Thanks to Mr. Ferris, Keegan no longer has a voice to stand up for himself and what he believed in. Keegan does have an army of people behind him, and through that, you will hear his voice and you will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you prepared to, do you have any statement on behalf of your client?
Yes. I would say I'm ready, but not prepared. And here's why. Anything I say today, it won't heal you. And I mean this sincerely. I'm not here to heal you, but I've heard your pain. And we wanted to sit respectfully and listen. And this is serious. And Keegan does matter. And I know what I say to the court will not give people comfort or pain who are grieving. And I say that out of respect, not only the court, but also the family that's here. And there's another family that's here. Mr. Ferris's. He has people here who would also like to speak. I've written something down. Do you mind if I?
No. Go ahead.
It doesn't make sense anymore. When you sit and listen to people that are grieving, it's difficult. And it brings us to the most basic part of our shared human experience. And that's grief. It's grief of the unknown. It's the sudden grief of the unexpected. As I listen to the family, candidly, I'm back in Los Angeles August 29th, 2023. I lost someone unexpectedly. I hear the scoffs, I hear the laughs. This is the shared human experience. Who I lost wasn't a tow truck driver, but it was sudden. And I had to do something I hadn't had to do before, and that's grieve, in a way that was very visceral for me. And so I respect very much what the family is saying. I want to point to the court to the pre-sentence investigation report. This is something that was investigated. This is not a situation
where Mr. Ferris was intoxicated. No one has said that. There's no reason to believe that. That's a different type of case. This is not a suggestion that he had alcohol or marijuana in his system. That's a different type of case. They looked at the phone. The phone has been in law enforcement's possession. The pre-sentence investigation report states after a sudden slowdown, Mr. Ferris lost control of his vehicle. He lost control of his vehicle. I absolutely understand the pain of saying, why couldn't you have controlled this? You could have stopped this. He hit the brake. He lost control of his vehicle. It was beyond his control. He had lost that. Tragically, a man was killed. No one today has said that that's what he wanted. The court has seen Mr. Ferris, has seen him as he's currently reacting. His toes tapping, his face red, his hands clutching. What the family doesn't know, and it's no fault of their own, is how we've talked. There are not very many outlets for grief for people that are involved in an accident like this. This has not gone without consequence for him emotionally. I can't speak on Instagram posts of parents, hadn't heard of it until today. I can tell you, I've spoken with them a ton on the phone as this is happening. There's been a palpable fear. Their life suddenly changed too. Their child was in trouble. And he has never been a part of this system. This is a different case if he's a repeat offender. He's not. The phone was in the dock and the right of his steering wheel as he was using it for GPS. That's appropriate. They looked for text messages and phone calls. There was a phone call, and then it was determined that 13 seconds later, which is not an insubstantial amount of time, especially when you're on the road, 13 seconds later was when the crash occurred. So he was not using his phone at the time of the accident when he lost control of his vehicle. In the pre-sentence investigation report, it says this confirmed his cell phone was not in use as the crash happened. I get that. That's not comforting to hear. When you have someone you love so much, that meant so much to you and your community, and the result is he was lost because of an accident, hurts. I get that. I've been there. And there are stages of our grief that we go through. There's a frustration. There's an anger. And then it starts to transition to something different over time, as I've experienced. Some of the things I've heard today are visceral, but also positive. I share the concern about people on the side of the road. Since this case has gone on, I have ridden with a tow truck driver. I wanted to experience it. I have. Went down 131. And I get what they're saying. When cars are flying by on a highway, interstate highway, where the speed limit is 75 miles per hour, that's breathtaking. And unfortunately, accidents happen. I don't say that to suggest that people in the tow truck industry and law enforcement should be subjected to that. That's part of what we're living with. When this is, please, I was respectful when you spoke. And I'm not saying your son doesn't deserve what he does. Please. I know this is charged. This was an accident, a tragically unfortunate accident. This was not something he intended to do. When he spoke with the pre-sentence investigation officer, he was forthright about the counseling he's gone through, the PTSD he's experiencing, and the steps he's taking to make sure this won't happen again. This is someone who understands the gravity of it, has paid a price. And I would submit to the court that the pre-sentence investigation report is appropriate in what it recommends. I'm happy to answer any questions the court may have.
No, I have no questions, thank you. Mr. Ferris, is there anything you would like me to consider prior to imposing sentence? As I said, when Mr. Ferris entered his plea, I had reviewed everything that had been sent to me, and since that time, there has been loads more letters of support sent. I've read every single letter of support for both you, Mr. Ferris, and every single victim impact statement that was prepared. I just went through a case very similar to this. It was a moving violation causing death case. And in that case, the defendant opted to exercise his right to a jury trial. And it was horrific. And we had to watch video evidence in here of the scene. And ultimately, after 2 full days, a jury of his peers found him not guilty. And that case dragged on even longer than Keegan's and Payton's case. These cases are awful. I do not take this day lightly. I don't take it lightly for Keegan. I don't take it lightly for you, Payton. I have discussed this case with my loved ones. I talked about it with my daughter this morning, who gave me a big hug before she went off to middle school. Hearing you, Sharon, speak today really broke my heart, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all of your loss. I really am. Keegan really sounds like he was an amazing guy. Really amazing guy. I got that. I want you to know I got it. I've been thinking, like last night, I didn't sleep. I was trying to think about what I could say today that might provide some measure of comfort, which is like impossible. I know that. I know there's no comfort I can give anybody in this room. But all I can say is that I hear you, and I hear what kind of person your loved ones have described you to be as well. The words that were used to describe Keegan over and over and over again were that he was funny, he was kind, he was outgoing, he was charismatic, he had a servant heart. Family meant everything to him. The words used to describe Payton were dependable, industrious, inspiring, always there if you need him, and kind. And I have no doubt that the loss of Keegan is a ripple effect, Ms. Ball. And it won't stop rippling. I believe that. And I sincerely hope that there is change that comes from the loss of Keegan. In this role, my job is to review the evidence that I have, to hear from both sides, and to look at what has been presented to me in terms of the reports, the facts as the government sees them and as the defense sees them. And I have read the reports in this case dozens of times. The Kent County Sheriff's Department did a thorough investigation in this case. There was a crash reconstruction. What could be downloaded from Payton's phone, which was everything, was downloaded. I can't draw the own conclusions as to what the facts are. I have to accept them as they have been provided to me by law enforcement. And the troopers and the experts in this case drew the conclusion that excessive speed was not a factor. And that's in the report. While yes, we all agree that Payton was on his phone, making a call 13 seconds before he struck Keegan. There's no dispute about that. His phone wasn't in his hand. He wasn't texting. He wasn't on TikTok. He wasn't on a dating website. He wasn't doing something flippant and casual. He ended a phone call and continued driving. Those are the facts as have been presented to me. As I have driven to court, I think about Keegan a lot as I drive on the road, on the freeway. I think about what it would be like if, as I drive down the road to my home, if somebody suddenly darted out. Am I going so fast that I couldn't respond? And I think about what 13 seconds feels like. And so I have, on multiple occasions, set a timer. I ask Siri to set a timer while I'm driving. And I think about how far I go and at what speed. And so I haven't drawn that conclusion lightly. I know that if the prosecutor's office had evidence to support that he had a phone in his hand, or that he was texting, or that he truly was distracted, he would be charged with a felony. I have to trust the charging decision that has been made by the prosecutor's office. And so I'm left with moving violation causing death. When I watched the video last week of Payton's mom in her car that was sent to me, I was struck by how insensitive and flippant that was. You've known that these people are in excruciating, exquisite pain. And you're not on trial, and you didn't commit the accident. But to do that was like pouring salt into a gaping, gaping wound. And my hope is that moving forward, you think before you get in your car and you casually post a video of yourself going to the grocery store for Friendsgiving, acknowledging that you know it's against the law. What an unnecessary, careless thing to do. I know that you people have had to see Payton on social media. Not everything is on social media. And I do believe, that there is a pain and anguish inside of him. I do. I think his nightmares at night, replaying the moment he hit Keegan, will stay with him. They wake him up. Many people who wrote in letters of support for you, Payton, described the ways that this has impacted him. And that's not portrayed on videos posted to YouTube. But I have no doubt that in Payton's private moments, he is replaying this moment over and over and over again. I saw somebody get hit by a car when I was in high school with my mom. It happened right in front of us. We lived in Orlando, Florida, and I wasn't behind the wheel. But I, as a bystander, remember that. I can see it happening right in front of us. My mom behind the wheel. A woman was crossing International Drive, and we were in the drive-thru at the Dunkin' Donuts. And it was a horrific accident. And I know, because as a bystander, I see it. I think what happened. I don't have any answers. But I know that that is happening 100-fold for Payton. And his hunting and fishing videos don't show it. But I do believe, based off of what people have wrote in and what I've heard about who he was as a person, that he will be haunted by this for the rest of his life. I do. I don't think Payton is a bad person. I don't. I think that there is nothing I can do to help alleviate any of the anger and the pain. And fairness doesn't really have a place in the court system. It really doesn't. Fair would be bringing Keegan back. Letting him have Christmas this year with Olivia and Riker and Nora. That's the reality. So, I have a horrific, horrific crash. I have the conclusions of law enforcement that speed was not a factor, that he wasn't actually driving distracted, because if he was, it would have been a different charge. So, the recommendation from the pre-service investigation report was that Payton be placed on 12 months of probation, that he will participate in counseling, therapy, or programs as directed by probation, pay all the fees for those, and provide proof of continued attendance. That he shall complete 360 hours of community service, that he have no direct or indirect contact with the Spencer family. That's not exactly what I'm going to impose. Payton, I'm placing you on probation for 2 years. You shall participate in counseling. You shall complete 500 hours of community service. You shall have no indirect or direct contact with the Spencer family. You will have a year in jail suspended over you. If you violate your probation, a year in jail will be imposed. There is a $2,000 fine. Restitution is also going to be ordered. Because I don't have the documentation of how much Keegan's funeral cost, I can't impose that. But as soon as that is provided, you will be responsible for covering all of Keegan's funeral costs. Your license is suspended for a year. Once you do have the ability to drive, I will consider it a violation of your probation if you commit a single traffic infraction. A minor speeding ticket will be construed as a violation of your probation. While you're on probation, you may not use alcohol, controlled substances, marijuana, abuse prescription drugs. You will be subject to random testing for those substances. that will be at your expense. You will be required to take every distracted driving class and safe driving class that is available to you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Holmstrom, is there anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
To the families, I am very sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why no jail time? Why not something?
Because I didn't
He
feel it.
broke the law.
I understood.
One of our drivers got more for shooting a cat. He went to jail for 90 days for shooting a cat. We did without a driver for shooting a cat.
Almost got to jump out in front of my truck, I'd get charged with something.
I understand.
Keegan's like,
I'm
"Man,
very,
my
very sorry.
granddaughter doesn't have a dad."
I'm very sorry.
Christmas with his family.
She done made her mind up weeks ago.
He needs to go to jail.
This is a final judgment and sentence of the court. If you want to appeal, you can apply to do so within 21 days, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one can be appointed for you.
I hope you get a speeding ticket.
Very sorry.
I hope you end up in jail.
Keegan needs justice.
This ain't it.
This ain't justice. Fucking bullshit. That cat, boy, got better justice than Keegan got.
I'm waiting for this. I'm not gonna do it. I don't know how you fucking left.
The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war.